Hi, and welcome to Stamp with Ginny. Today I'm going to share with you this fun card called a pop-up box. This card pops up and will sit on your table, but it folds down flat for mailing. I've used the Hippest Hippo Celebration Stamp Set to create this fun retro feeling card. So let me set this aside and I'll show you how I got started. Okay, I'm going to start with the scoring for this project. I'm going to score at the 1/2 inch mark, the 2.5 inch mark, 4.5, and 6.5, and I can set my scoreboard to the side. Once I have my scoring done, I'm ready to start adding my designer series paper and my panels. So I'm going to quickly do that. Our paper is double-sided, so you can use the side that you would like. I'm going to use this bold stripe because I want kind of a psychedelic feel or a 70s. You want to make sure that you're lining your designer series paper up when you have a pattern like this, and you're cutting it so that it'll look consistent. Okay, there we go. And my last panel is going to be my little signature panel, which you can add at this time or you can add later. I'm going to go ahead and add this now so that you can see the project coming together. Okay, I've got my designer series paper and panel applied, and so I'm going to start building my pop-up box, and I'm going to do that simply by scoring each one of these lines with my bone folder so I've got a nice tight crease. And the last is the 1/2 inch mark here. Now I'm going to add some tear and tape to this 1/2 inch section here, which will be on the left here. I like to use tear and tape for this kind of thing because it's a 3D project and it'll get me a nice tight bond. And I'm using my finger here. You can use your scissors, or if you want even a old credit card or debit card that you can use to break that tear and tape. Now that I've got that done, I'm going to fold my box here and line up the edges, just making sure that my seams line up. And I can burnish this with my bone folder so that it's got a nice hold. So there you go. I've got my back panel and I've got my other panels. Now I like to decorate this before I assemble so that it's easier to see what you're doing, but either way will work, since you can fold it flat and add your items to it that way. So let me set this aside and we'll get some stamping done. I've got my little hippo and my sentiment and my memento black because I'm going to be coloring this guy with my Stampin' Blends. I'm going to put it on my paper so that it looks like a diamond, and I'm going to stamp my little hippo. And then I'm going to bring in my sentiments and stamp it to the left of my little hippo. There we go. I just love these quirky little sayings. I've got him done, and I can bring in my blends. I happen to be using Smoky Slate for this, and so I'm going to start with my light shade. I'm going to start with the bottom of his ears here and do that. And then I'm going to go around this little flower and outline that section, just so it's a little easier. I'm going to do his chest and then his tummy. And while I have these, I'm also going to do his little nails, and I'm going to highlight these little areas and his feet also. Okay, I've got that done. Oops. I can come back in with my flare tip and quickly add color to this. Now, working quickly with the wet edge is always best. There we go. And then I'm going to bring in the dark, and I'm going to quickly color in his face and the top of his ears, and then his body. I'm going to do a couple of lines underneath that tummy to make it a little darker. Now I'm using a really light touch here because I'm using the flare tip. And of course we have our Oops pen that works wonders when you want to push that ink right back into it. If you haven't invested in one and you like your blends, I highly suggest you get a color lifter. Okay, I've got my little hippo done and I'm ready to do the flower. I'm going to bring in my granny apple for this, and I'm simply going to do the little petal and the stem. I don't need to worry too much about that little stem because our little flower will cover him up. So I've got him done and I'm ready to start building my focal point. So I'm going to bring this in and adhere it down to my specific point. Like I said, this has kind of a retro feel to it because of the colors I'm using in the patterns. And we're going to make them a little hippo. I've got my little hippo done and mounted, and I'm ready to start adding my flowers. Cut out a number of flowers using the cardstock and the coordinating dies, and I'm going to start building these little flowers onto my card to create that retro feel that I had mentioned earlier. So I'm going to add a flower here to the front, and I think I'll add one over here. And I'm just touching a little bit of adhesive where I want these flowers to be. And I'm even going to place them where they go over the edge of the cardstock a little bit, giving it a more whimsical feel. Let's see, I'm going to put one there and one there. I'm being careful not to squeeze my bottle too much so that it has a little bit of adhesive, but it's not oozing. You can use the fine tip glue pen for this also. Let's see, just touch. And I'm using my Take Your Pick tool because these are tiny. There we go. And on this particular panel, I'm going to add a flower to the center. I'm using my Glossy Dots assortment, and I'm going to pick up one of these dots. You're going to love them. They have this prism effect to it. Let's see if I can get him. There we go. And put it right in the center of that flower that they're holding. I've got my focal point done, and I'm going to add some flowers to the card itself. So I'm going to add some adhesive dots here with my multi-purpose adhesive, where I'd like to add a couple of flowers, and I'm going to pick those up. I love this tool. It makes life so easy. Let's see, I want a green one. The granny apple just screams retro to me, and the crushed curry. And then on this panel, I'm just going to set my little hippo here as a mask so that I know where I'm going with my flowers. And I'm going to put one here, and I think I'm going to put one here. Let's see. I'm going to use one of my large granny apple, and then I'm going to take one of my smaller Pacific point here. And while I've got this side up, I'm also going to bring in my little glossy dots again, and I'm going to pick one up and pop one right here to the left. I'm going to fold this down and put my diamond focal point back on there so I can see. And I'm going to add a dot here. That gives me 3 flowers. Odd numbers are always nice. And pop my flower on. And then I think I'm going to take one of the large glossy dots. Let's see. And pop it right here. I can remove my little hippo now and turn it to the last side. And I think I'm going to put one here. And let's see, one down here. I think I'm going to use my dot there and here. And then I'm going to add a center to this little flower. And if you've gotten too much adhesive onto your project, remember you can use our stamping buddy after it dries. Simply tap it a couple of times, being careful not to get too much of the powder on, because on dark colors it'll show up more. Okay, I am going to let that dry, and while that pop-up box is drying, I'm going to bring in my strip of Pacific Point and my punch. I'm going to punch out 2 of the ovals here. And I'm finished with my punch, and I can fold these ovals in half. Now you can pre-score if you prefer, but just folding them in half works perfectly fine. There we go. Now I like to add these to my pop-up box first, and then I like to add my focal point on it. So I need to get the front of my card, and this is my back panel, so I'm going to fold this in half. And then I'm going to add some adhesive. Let's see. I'm going to add adhesive to the 2 sides at one time here, so it's a little easier for you to see. And I'm going to pick that up, decide where I want my focal point, and I want it right here in the center. So I'm looking to put my little tabs right here, and I'm going to place one on one side and then one on the other with the adhesive down. Now these should meet in the middle over that score line, and I like to do the multi-purpose because you can move them a little bit, and you can even open it up and slide these towards the edge so you've got a nice finished project. Then I'm going to open these up and hold them in place, and I'm going to place my hippo, lining up those points onto the crease, and place him down. I'm going to hold that for a couple of minutes because I've used the multi-purpose until it holds, and there we go. And when I'm done, I've got this beautiful little pop-up box that has this 3D image on the front. There you go. So cute and retro feeling. I think anybody would enjoy receiving this adorable 3-dimensional card in the mail. And because it folds flat, you can place it into one of our envelopes. I think you're really going to enjoy creating with this Hippest Hippo Stamp Set found in our Sale-a-bration brochure that you can earn for free. And you can even get coordinating dies if you choose. And of course, if you'd like any of these products, feel free to stop by my online store. You can get there from my blog, Stamp with Jini. Thanks for joining me.